Welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Don Ma. Here are today's top stories. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's party is expected to win big in today's snap elections, potentially strengthening ties between the U.S. and Japan. A senior research fellow from the Japan Forum for Strategic Studies weighs in on what the results could mean for the two nations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is moving up a planned White House meeting with President Trump, now expected to happen this Wednesday. The sudden change comes just one day after the U.S.-Iran talks in Oman last Friday. Meanwhile, U.S. envoy visited the USS Abraham Lincoln near Iran's shores, and Tehran warns it will strike U.S. bases if attacked. Three-time alpine skiing medalist Lindsey Vonn crashes during her run on Sunday, ending her bid for an Olympic downhill title. Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie sending a video message to her mother's kidnapper saying she and her family will pay for her mother's Nancy's safe return. That's as officials investigate the authenticity of a second ransom note. Love, commitment, and connection. This week is National Marriage Week. We speak to the spokesperson of the celebration about strengthening marriages, creative ways to show love, and ideas for stronger communication and family teamwork.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party, led by Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, is projected to win a decisive victory in today's snap election. Takaichi, Japan's first female prime minister, is seeking a strong public mandate just 4 months after taking over as party leader. According to exit polls, her government's approval ratings have mostly remained above 70%. Japanese media project the LDP will secure about 300 of 465 seats in the House of Representatives. Voters across the country braved snow and freezing temperatures to cast ballots in Japan's first midwinter national election in 36 years.
Takaichi has a slightly different vibe compared to what we have seen so far in the political scene. So I'm feeling somewhat hopeful. That's why I voted.
Unlike previous elections, I believe this one stands at a crossroads for Japan. This is a precious vote, and I felt a sense of duty that I absolutely must cast it. I hold Takaichi in high regards as Japan's first female prime minister and her strong leadership. However, since not everyone within the LDP supported her, there were times when I felt she couldn't get the support she needed to do what she wanted to do.
Despite strong polling numbers, Takaichi and the ruling party faced a strong opposition compared to previous elections. Former coalition partner Komi Ito joined forces with the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, forming the largest opposition bloc in the lower house. Voter turnout surged even before Election Day. Early voting hit a record high of more than 27 million people. That's about 26% of eligible voters. It's roughly 6 million more than in the previous lower house election in 2024. Takaichi has also drawn international attention by establishing close ties with President Trump, who had publicly endorsed her. Both leaders have signaled support for increased defense spending in Japan.
In order to make Japan and the United States stronger and more prosperous, I want to work together with President Trump to build a new golden age of the Japan-U.S. alliance. Thank you.
I'd also like to congratulate you on being the first woman prime minister. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, and I want to congratulate you on that. I think that has to be called out. And you're going to do a fantastic job, and we're going to have a fantastic relationship. Thank you very much.
If the projected results hold, Takaichi is expected to strengthen Japan's alliance with the U.S., focusing on defense and regional security. She has backed increased military spending and closer cooperation with Washington. The decision comes as regional tensions with China continue to grow over Taiwan. Last year, Takaichi warned that any Chinese attack on the island could trigger a military response from Japan. In a Truth Social post last Friday, Trump gave Takaichi his total endorsement and says he plans to host her at the White House in March. Takaichi is scheduled to hold a press conference tomorrow to discuss the election results and outline her foreign policy priorities moving forward. And here are some more reactions from Japanese voters braving the cold to cast their ballots today.
Well, we hardly ever have elections like this to begin with, and this time it just happened to coincide with such heavy snow. So I think it'll be an election to remember.
I do support Prime Minister Takaichi. However, regarding the consumption tax reduction, well, originally they should have introduced something like the reduced tax rate system used in Europe from the very beginning. Instead, what we ended up with was something halfway done, a so-called reduced tax rate that doesn't really have much meaning. So I think that's where various problems arise from.
I'm not satisfied with things since Takaichi became Prime Minister. I do feel that taxes are being deducted a bit too much. The actual pay we take home is so very little, and in Japan they impose a lot of different taxes. I think the consumption tax is the biggest one. So many taxes are taken that, honestly, it feels like it's putting real pressure on people's lives. I think we keep changing prime ministers way too often. This time, Japan got its first female prime minister, Ms. Takaichi. But, her term so far has been quite short, and people overseas will probably think, oh, Japan just changed leaders again. I feel that it would be better if she could stay in office longer, and understand our country more deeply, and handle diplomacy with other countries more effectively.
Well, Sanae Takaichi's comment on a potential contingency across the Taiwan Strait and Japan's inevitable sort of involvement in that angered China very much, and also at the same time, caught many people in the policy circles and in the businesses by surprise as well. So in general, it's not as if there are a whole lot of people, even on the conservative side, who are sort of endorsing Takaichi and really hoping that she will continue this track. However, she has gained in stature as a tough woman, as an iron lady of modern Japan. And therefore, I think it's very unlikely that she'll back down from it during the campaign.
Joining us to discuss Japan's legislative election today is Grant Newsham, retired Marine Corps Colonel, former U.S. diplomat, and senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy. Colonel, always great to have you on the show. So why are people watching this election closely? What's the results going to signal? And Takaichi had said that she would resign if her coalition failed to secure a simple majority. But it looks like now her governing party is on course to strengthen its position in the lower chamber. What do you think?
Well, one hesitates to use the word tectonic shift, but that's what you're seeing in Japan. It's finally getting away from the sort of self-imposed handcuffs put on by World War II and the subsequent generations that saw that they just really couldn't act like a normal nation. And Takaichi represents a younger generation, and she had huge support from them and also from even older people who realized that Japan has to do some pretty basic things. And that is to have a normal defense, stand up for itself, have a solid relationship with the United States. But also she's one of the first politicians who's actually done her homework. She's very well informed, but also she's talking about making life better for the average Japanese. And you think, well, maybe someone else has said that. No, she's really the first one. And they're much too heavily taxed is the big problem. And their salaries are much too low. And if you're making $40,000 a year, you're probably not going to have 6 children. So this really is a change from the old Japan that we saw really from about 1946. So this is significant.
Okay, so exit polls are showing positive results for Takaichi, and you're talking about this is significant. So what change could it mean for Japan if her party wins big? What are we likely to see?
Well, you're likely to see a Japan that doesn't apologize for everything, that isn't afraid of its shadow, that will actually stand up to itself, stand up to China. And this is something we just haven't seen. You've noticed that she has not backed down or apologized for this pretextual assault on her by the Chinese for a comment she made regarding Taiwan that was asked by a Diet member who is known to have deep family business ties with China. He was probably asking on China's behalf. She hadn't backed down. And you're going to see a Japan with a defense that is actually useful. There's a lot of work to be done, but Japan's military now is not even the sum of its parts. But she has some excellent advisors, and she has done her homework. So you're going to see a more capable Japan in terms of national defense, and she also understands the importance of economic strength and economic security as part of that defense, and she's taken some good steps in that regard. The relationship with the Americans, that is going to be intensified. And that is what Japan needs to defend itself. But as importantly, it's what America needs if it's going to hold its own in the Asia Pacific. It has got to have a solid relationship with Japan and a Japanese military that is capable and also that can actually operate with the Americans. So if people take advantage of the opportunity here, this could be a very different dynamic in the Asia Pacific, where I say a more confident Japan is actually standing up for itself instead of, as I noted, being afraid of its own shadow.
Okay, so Colonel, you bring up China, you brought up the relationship with the United States. I'll ask you about China first. How does this impact China? Does this election matter to Beijing?
It sure ought to. In fact, Washington ought to send a thank you note to Xi Jinping for having gotten the Japanese to take their defense seriously, finally. The Chinese do not want to have to deal with a capable, sort of a strong Japan with a strong defense, or a Japan that is solidly linked to the United States. They much prefer to go after their victims one-on-one. Taken on by itself, I think the Chinese think they could probably steamroll the Japanese. With the Americans in on it, I think that odds get much worse than that. So whenever China tells you what it doesn't want, someone to do, you know they're probably doing something right. So when they warn about Japanese militarism, even though there's no such thing, it tells you that a militarily capable Japan, capable of defending itself, is something the Chinese really don't want. When they talk about blocks, and what they mean is their victims getting together to defend themselves. So a good U.S.-Japan relationship is something they don't want. And Japan is also reaching out to a number of other countries in the region, has established military relations to go along with their strong economic ties. And these have been welcome. And that's from Australia over to Southeast Asia to India, just about everywhere. So this is a new, more assertive Japan. It's not a threat to anybody, but it's simply a much stronger, solid bastion of freedom in the Western Pacific and East Asia.
So, I mean, the U.S. and Japan were always allies. So specifically about this election, why does this make the relationship even better?
Well, they've been allies in the sense that they're friends. But in actual fact, when it comes to sort of the military to military, the Japanese have not been pulling their weight. And there's some reasons for that. But now you're going to have a more balanced, a more equal relationship. And that makes a relationship stronger because Japan will be doing more militarily. And as I said, it depends now on what concrete steps are taken by both sides to improve their individual capabilities, but also the ability to combine these. And as much as anything, you're seeing a psychological shift in Japan. And that is, as I said, it's one where the ghost of World War II is pretty much gone away. Anyone with direct involvement aren't many of them left. The next two generations, there's fewer and fewer of them. And the newer generation is saying, well, why shouldn't we defend ourselves? And why don't we have a normal military like a regular country? And so there's a psychological change which manifests itself in a stronger relationship between the U.S. and Japan. And when other countries see that as well, there's sometimes a tendency to have a little more confidence that you don't have to roll over for China. There'll be a bandwagoning effect if this plays out. So it's an opportunity now. But it's worth remembering that Takaichi has a lot of enemies in Japan, and besides the Chinese, who of course hate her. But in the Japanese domestic political world, she's got some people who would like her to disappear. So she does need support from the United States, and showing that she has really the ear of President Trump and actually delivers on behalf of the citizens.
So as you're aware, Colonel, President Trump posted about this election a few days ago. He called it a very important election. He also said that he's going to invite Takaichi to the White House in March. How would you describe President Trump's relationship with Takaichi?
I think it's good. I think it speaks for itself. I think you can take it at face value. He does understand the importance of Japan. One never quite knows, of course, with President Trump, what sort of a deal he's got. He's trying to work out. So the Japanese are very sensitive to any suggestion that the Americans are sort of going over them and trying to cut a deal with China that might leave Japan out in the cold. But that's not a function of the Trump administration. This has been something they've worried about for the last 30 years at least. So it needs to be handled carefully. But you do have to make it clear to everyone who's watching that Japan is America's primary ally in the region, if not the world, and that there's no question about that. So that's an important thing that does needs borne in mind from the U.S. side.
Why did Takaichi call an election a snap election so early into her term? What is the state of the opposition party?
Well, the opposition party, I think, as you can see from the results of today's election, they're not completely out yet. But I think the technical term is they got whapped. They really got hammered. And it's not surprising. The opposition party doesn't really know what it's for. It really doesn't have a platform. And then when I say the opposition party, it's actually become a coalition of a party called Komeito. Komeito used to be the Takaichi's party's coalition partner. So Komeito met up or joined up with the main opposition, and they had nothing to offer. There was nothing clear about what their message was. But even worse, Komeito left the alliance with Takaichi's party the day after its head met with the Chinese ambassador in Japan. And he apparently told them, get out of the coalition and do what you can to defeat Takaichi. Now, the Japanese police actually for years were following leaders of that party to meetings in these out-of-the-way inns with representatives from the Chinese embassy in Tokyo. So it was good riddance, and that's probably one of the reasons why Takaichi's party did so well, in addition to her own just popularity. But the opposition in Japan is in disarray. This isn't to say that every single person in Japan is behind Takaichi and the Liberal Democratic Party, but this certainly was a huge show of support for them, and it's a good basis from which to make some progress, both in terms of domestic policy, and you've got to get that right, and also the foreign policy that foreigners or outsiders like me concentrate on so much, and that is fundamentally important to really stability and really peace in the region. Without it, our odds would not be very good. So this is a good outcome today.
I just want to ask you one more question on Japan's domestic policy. Where do you think the concerns about Japan's economic issues is going to go under Takaichi? Japanese people have complained about the rising cost of living.
Well, I hope she can pull it off. And the thing is, it's not all that complicated. If you had any idea how heavily taxed the Japanese people are, you'd be horrified. And sometimes, in fact, it seems as though the regular Japanese citizen lives only to really be fleeced by the elite class and to serve the elite class's interests. It's really astonishing if you actually live there. And as a result, if you just do some simple things like put more money in people's pockets so they're not getting nickeled and dimed, and actually it's a lot more than that, that you're going to have a shifted confidence, and they're going to actually maybe buy houses, may go actually spend money more. But as it is, the sort of fiscal conditions in Japan and the fiscal policy has just squeezed the average citizen so much that they can barely breathe. And change that, and I think you'd be surprised at the beneficial effects it would have on Japan's economy, psychology, and it would make it also easier to make these improvements in national defense because you've got more money. But some of these things are not very complicated, but Japan is an incredibly heavily taxed society. And as I said, incomes are very low, and many people are part-time workers. So where's the stability there? So there's some basic things you can do to make people's lives better that aren't that complicated. It just takes a leader who actually gives two hoots. And Takaichi just might be the first one of those to come along in 35 years that I've been watching it.
All right, Colonel, thank you for speaking with us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Well, thanks for having me.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to hold an urgent meeting with President Trump this Wednesday, February 11th, according to a statement from the Prime Minister's office. The meeting was originally scheduled for the following Wednesday, February 18th, at the White House. The announcement comes after U.S. and Iranian offices held negotiations on Friday in Oman over a potential nuclear deal. President Trump's top envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, toured the USS Abraham Lincoln this weekend alongside the head of U.S. Central Command. The trip came after Friday's nuclear talks with Iran's foreign minister in Oman. The aircraft carrier and its strike group are now deployed in the Arabian Sea within range of Iran, positioned to lead any potential U.S. military action. Iran's foreign minister warned Saturday that Tehran would strike U.S. bases across the Middle East if American forces attack. He insisted negotiations remain limited to the nuclear issue, not its missile capabilities. But Secretary of State Rubio said earlier that Washington wanted broader talks. President Trump called the talks very good on Friday night and said another round could come as soon as next week. Despite this, Tehran is concerned Trump may still carry out his strikes to Iran.
We have a big armada, we have a big fleet heading in that direction. We'll be there pretty soon. So we'll see how that works out. And they want to make a deal, Iran, as they should want to make a deal. They know the consequences. If they don't make a deal, the consequences are very steep.
Three-time Olympic medalist Lindsey Vonn crashed in her run Sunday, bringing her Olympic downhill dream to an end. She had started the games with a ruptured ACL. Vonn burst out of the start in the final, but caught a gate with her right arm after just 13 seconds, sending her tumbling down the slope. The 41-year-old was then airlifted off the course as the crowd stood to applaud her.
It's such a huge loss and bummer. I feel like hearing her story and just like the redemption of her first fall and like fighting to come back to the Olympics this year, I feel so sad for her, and I'm sure we're not alone in that feeling.
In a short statement posted on social media, the U.S. ski and snowboard team said Lindsey Vonn fell in the Olympic downhill and will be evaluated by. The former head of the Rogue Nation's national wrestling team is urging sports organizations to ban Iran from the Olympics. This comes weeks after Tehran executed thousands of anti-government demonstrators. Iran International reports the Iranian regime killed Parsa Loristani, a 15-year-old protester and a wrestler. A government sniper allegedly killed Loristani during a protest in early January. Meanwhile, Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie telling the kidnapper of her mother, Nancy Guthrie, Saturday her family will pay for their mother's release. Take a listen.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Officials believe Nancy Guthrie was abducted from her home in Arizona last Sunday. Purported ransom notes asked the Guthrie family for millions in Bitcoin for their mother's return. The ransom notes had a second deadline on Monday. Meanwhile, officials are investigating whether a second ransom note sent to a local news station is legitimate. The note has sensitive information and no deadline. Now the big question is whether Nancy Guthrie is still alive. Law enforcement said she needs medication daily to survive. If she doesn't get it within 24 hours, the results can be fatal. Law enforcement still has not located any suspect. The FBI has offered $50,000 of reward for tips on Nancy Guthrie's whereabouts. 84-year-old Nancy is Savannah Guthrie's only living parent. February 6th marks Ronald Reagan's 115th birthday. His vision of economic freedom, limited government, and strong American leadership continues to inspire. NTD's Christina Corona reports on the events when we come back.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Getting prescription glasses from Select Specs is easier than you might think. Select your frames from our £6 range in-house brands or our extensive designer collections. Then enter, upload or email your latest prescription and our website will analyze it and help you select the best lenses and options to suit you. Click to place the order and your new Select Specs glasses are delivered right to your door. Ordering your prescription glasses is as easy as 1, 2, C with Select Specs at selectspecs.com.
Hi, my name is Brady. When I was born, my parents thought everything was okay. My mom and dad were so excited to take me home.
I still get goosebumps telling this story. Several days in, his skin started to become very cold and clammy. We noticed that he had become blue around his mouth, and something was just very off.
We packed up as fast as we could. Brady stopped breathing twice on the way to the pediatrician. And that was one of the #1 things that just haunts me to this day.
I was born with a congenital heart defect called aortic coarctation. If my parents waited just 1 more hour to drive me to the hospital, I would not be here today. But thanks to research funded by the American Heart Association, I had heart surgery that saved my life. But not every kid is as lucky as me, which is why we need your help. Just call the number on the screen or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help. Get people trained in CPR. Get more hospitals certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. And help fund the next medical breakthroughs to help save kids like me.
When you donate to the American Heart Association, you're helping save lives like my son. And now, my son is happy and healthy, thanks to the support of people like you.
When you call with your $19 a month, you'll get this really cool t-shirt as a thank you. Many children die from congenital heart defects. I can't wait to grow up to become a heart surgeon and fix babies' hearts, but until then, I'll keep helping the American Heart Association. So please join me. Just call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org to become a monthly donor and help save lives.
February 6th marks Ronald Reagan's 115th birthday commemoration. His ideas continue to shape debates over economic freedom, limited government, and American leadership. Former Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy said, "Reagan believed in America." NTD's Christina Corona has more.
We're here at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in the city of Simi Valley, where officials and supporters gathered to honor and celebrate President Reagan on what would have been his 115th birthday. The ceremony includes a military honor, an official White House wreath, and remarks by former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The ceremony began with military honors, music by the Camp Pendleton Marine Division Band, a 21-gun salute, and a flyover. Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy delivered the keynote address. McCarthy praised Reagan for his accomplishments, saying that even on his birthday, it was Reagan who gave Americans the gifts.
That gift is the gift of the ability to apply the traditions of the past to a changing future.
McCarthy said Reagan helped change America.
When Reagan took office, inflation was at 13%, interest rates hitting 20%, and unemployment was high. People had lost faith. In response, Reagan cut taxes. He slashed regulation. He unleashed free enterprise, and he made it easier for Americans to save and start a family.
McCarthy also shared 3 lessons he learned from President Reagan.
Lesson number 1. Peace without freedom is meaningless. Lesson number 2. Trust ordinary people to control their own destinies. And lesson 3. America is too great for small visions.
Organizers say Reagan's legacy is still important today.
President Reagan believed so much in America, American pride, optimism, the future, freedom and democracy, all things that are as just important today as they were for Ronald Reagan's era, as they were for our founding fathers.
The Ronald Reagan Presidential Library opened in 1991 and features the Reagan's burial site along with exhibits highlighting his presidency.
In 2005, we opened up a second portion, which houses the actual Air Force One aircraft he flew on. When you come to the Reagan Library, you tour through that plane. We have a full-scale replica of the Oval Office. You get to walk through a real piece of the Berlin Wall. It's Ronald Reagan's life and story from childhood through his passing, his presidency in the 80s.
Giller says visiting the Reagan Library is a way for people to learn more about American history, no matter their political party.
And just a really important way to learn about American history as a whole, the American presidency as a whole. And then both President and Mrs. Reagan are buried here, just sort of over my shoulder, which is where the location is for today's event. So it's a really good way to, whether you're Republican or not a Republican, into presidential history or not into presidential history, just a way to sort of learn about that time in America's history.
Organizers say the annual tribute is meant to preserve President Reagan's legacy and to remind future generations of his impact on the country. Reporting from Simi Valley, California, Christina Corona, NTD News.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are less than 1 week away from another partial government shutdown. And some say ICE negotiations aren't going well. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more on that, plus other issues happening on the Hill.
Lawmakers started off their week ending a partial government shutdown.
Our majority worked together, and we got the bills over the line.
They gave themselves a short 2-week window to work out a bipartisan framework for ICE policy changes by next Friday. Democrats have unveiled a list of demands.
Wear identifying badges, do not wear masks. When they go to someone's door to try and get into a home, they use a judicial warrant, and they don't conduct random roving patrols or engage in racial profiling.
Republicans are open to some changes, but say Democrats aren't coming to the table to make a deal that both sides can accept.
Even after our attempts to have that conversation, we then yet once again see a list of demands grow from 3 to 10 without any communication. Look, that's not the way good faith negotiations begin or end.
This is not a blank check situation where Republicans just to agree to a list of Democrat demands.
What they're essentially endorsing is defunding FEMA and defunding TSA, because the ICE operation money, the detention facilities, the money for the border walls, all been front-loaded in the working families tax cut from last summer. That's just a reality. So they don't have leverage here.
Republicans are now making demands of their own. President Trump is pushing for changes to federal election laws, a measure Democrats have so far rejected.
This piece of legislation is going to ensure that states are abiding by federal election law by removing non-citizens from their voter rolls.
Democrats have been clear for months we will never in a million years consider this deeply restrictive and overreaching piece of legislation.
A vote is possible next week. Also this week, new developments in the Jeffrey Epstein probe. Former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify to lawmakers later this month.
It's going to be videoed. It's going to be the subpoena and the contempt was on a deposition.
The former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton wants a public testimony, but Chairman Comer insists it should be videoed instead, saying his committee is very disruptive and members might interfere with questioning. Critical minerals are a crucial aspect of economic and national security. Lawmakers in the administration this week taking action to counter the Chinese Communist Party's predatory practices.
We want to eliminate that problem of people flooding into our markets with cheap critical minerals to undercut our domestic manufacturers.
The administration establishing a price floor system for critical minerals and forming a trading bloc with allies, while House lawmakers passed a bill to speed up and expand mineral production on federal lands. China's human rights abuses also in the spotlight. On the heels of the International Religious Freedom Summit, lawmakers hosted a hearing to defend religious freedom.
Billions of human beings made in the image and likeness of God live in countries where the God-given right to freely exercise their religion is severely restricted.
Witnesses say Communist China will spend billions of dollars this year alone to suppress every faith.
And they save their greatest anger and bile for the Falun Gong, domestically grown group. We should see them as our greatest ally. These are people behind enemy lines that will stand up to the regime, that will stand up to the oppressors, because they overcome their fear with their interior faith.
The House has already passed bills to address the CCP's forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience, one of which is the Falun Gong Protection Act. It's awaiting action in the Senate.
Munich-based robotics company Robco, backed by Volkswagen and Exor, raises $100 million to expand in the U.S. The capital will advance Robco's advanced AI-driven robotics technology. Here's that story.
These robotic arms are bringing artificial intelligence to the physical world. Its maker, Munich-based Robco, is working to advance so-called physical AI technology. But what is physical AI, and why is it useful?
Yeah, physical AI to us at Robco is the application of AI in the physical world. That means in the manufacturing environment, in the industry, in production environments.
Robco, whose customers include BMW, is bolstering its position in a rapidly expanding market with a fresh capital injection. Thanks to investors including Volkswagen's venture capital arm and Exor, Robco announced on Thursday that it's raised $100 million, which will be used to expand its U.S. footprint.
South Korean crypto exchange Bithumb apologizes for the accidental giveaway of more than $40 billion worth of Bitcoin during a promotion. The company insists there was no hacking or security breach. Regulators say they're reviewing the incident and will conduct on-site inspections if irregularities are found.
South Korea's Bithumb crypto exchange has apologized for a $44 billion mistake after accidentally giving away 620,000 bitcoins as part of a customer reward campaign. The company said it had restricted trading and withdrawals for the 695 affected customers shortly after the error on Friday, and that it had recovered 99.7% of the bitcoins as of Saturday night. The exchange had planned to distribute small cash rewards of 2,000 Korean won, worth about $1.4 or more to each user as part of a promotional event. But instead, winners received at least 2,000 bitcoins each, media reports said. In a statement, Bithumb said the incident was unrelated to external hacking or security breaches, and there were no problems with system security or customer asset management. But South Korea's financial regulators, including the Financial Services Commission, said the incident has exposed the vulnerabilities and risks of virtual assets. After an emergency meeting, the regulators said in a statement they would review Bithumb and other crypto exchanges' internal control systems, as well as their holdings and operations of virtual assets. And if irregularities are found, an on-site inspection would be launched, the statement said. Bitcoin is the world's largest cryptocurrency. Charts from Bithumb Exchange show Bitcoin prices briefly slumped 17% on Friday evening after the incident, but later recovered.
Love, commitment, and connection. This week is National Marriage Week. After the break, we speak with a National Marriage Week spokesperson about strengthening marriages, creative ways to show love, and ideas for stronger communication and family teamwork. We'll see you back here shortly.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. I was already trying to change my perspective of life and really just be a father figure that I never had. Being present is the most important part. I'm still growing every day, becoming a better version of myself.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In light of National Marriage Week, we're joined by Marriage Week spokesperson Arlene Pelican, author of Making Marriage Easier, How to Love and Like Your Spouse for Life. So good afternoon, Arlene. Let's start off with the biggest question here. What is the secret to having a long and happy marriage?
There are so many secrets, right? One of the secrets is remember your vow and do what you said you would do. A lot of it is commitment. It's not based on, well, I feel like doing this today. I feel like doing that today. It is, I have made a commitment. I have made a vow. And then act in a way where you are being the person you were when you got married. In other words, keep treating your spouse with respect and with love.
What happens, if you and your partner, on certain things disagree strongly? How do you avoid arguments, fights, and conflicts?
And it is okay to welcome arguments, fights, and conflicts. But as I talk about in Making Marriage Easier, play by the rules, have certain rules that, hey, we're not going to yell at each other. We're not going to talk poorly in front of other people about each other. So still have those discussions. And remember, it's a negotiation and it's not strange that you disagree because you are two different people. Do your best to understand the other, your spouse's point of view, to understand, and do your best to communicate calmly without emotion, right? Your side to come up with the best solution together.
Okay, so for certain couples, can you give us practical insights on strengthening a faith-based, faith-centered marriage?
Absolutely. At National Marriage Week, marriageweek.org, there are lots of couple connection plans. The couples that pray together do very well in terms of their divorce rate is very small. Going to church together regularly, serving together. Maybe you like kids, maybe you like to usher, maybe you like doing events, but service types of projects, that's a beautiful thing. And when you are treating your spouse, with kindness, you're serving them, you're doing these things and you feel like they are not thanking me back. Remember, God is watching. Jesus is just right there over the shoulder of your spouse, watching what you do. And ultimately, we do that for God. We treat our marriage well in honor to Christ.
So you said earlier to remember your vows you made to each other. So what are some of the meaningful ways then to express that commitment, express love to your spouse?
It can be as simple as when they walk through the house that you greet them with a hug and a kiss. Dr. Arthur Brooks says the Oxytocin Express, the fastest way for that bonding is eye contact and physical touch. So if you'll just look up from your phone and look straight into the eyes of your spouse, I love you, I'm glad to see you, hug them. That took you 5 seconds. And that's a beautiful habit for, seeing each other during the busy work day. And then date night, whether that's once a week or once a month, that you do that regularly, prioritizing your spouse. If you have children, it's easy to put all the love and attention to your children and just think to yourself, I'm going to treat my spouse at least as good as I treat my kids.
So how do you be together for couples with, a sense of real purpose? How do you do that?
Yeah, that is the theme of this year's Marriage Week, Together with Purpose. And that is a sense of growing together, that there's something maybe that you're learning together. My husband and I are learning how to do ballroom dancing together. We look very foolish, but it's been a way for us to grow. And it gives us, purpose to our Friday night. It's creating together, creating a home, creating a business, creating a family, all that creation and ways to serve. That really helps bring purpose because a lot of people were struggling with that meaning. But when you're married, you have this team now and you can go and find that purpose. And the purpose is different in different seasons of life. Maybe the purpose right now is caring for your elderly parent.
What does effective communication look like in a functional marriage, effective marriage?
Yes. Listening, a lot of listening. We think we're doing all the talking and that must be communication, but nothing is happening. So if you feel like I'm talking, but we're not getting anywhere, focus instead of being the one that, oh, please understand me. Instead, shift that. Let me try my best to understand you. So a lot of listening. And also if maybe it's the types of words we're using. Learn the love language of your spouse. How do they like to be affirmed? What really gets them going? Be a student of your spouse and try to communicate in a way that they would receive the best.
Just one final question here. You talked earlier about, just look up from your phone, right? What if you're on the other end of this, where your partner is on the phone and you would like them to get up? What do you do?
Yes. You wait till they are fed and as calm as possible, but you do need to say something and say, like, you might text them and be like, hey, I am 2 feet away from you. Would you prefer that I text you? I think that's a great idea. Try to do something that kind of wakes them up to realize, oh my goodness, you are right here and I'm ignoring you right now, and say something. Not a guilt trip, but I miss you. I really want to spend time with you. Do you think we could go on this walk without our phones and start there?
Okay, very practical, fun, and easy tips today. Thank you so much for your time, Arlene.
Thanks so much.
And next, today's Health Matters. Men in the U.S. are among the loneliest in the world, according to a 2025 report. Vital Signs' Brendan Fallon shares insights from health experts into what's behind the crisis and what can be done about it. Don't go away.
They tried to silence us. But 5,000 years cannot be erased.
A lost world reborn. Timeless. Divine. Witness the revival. Experience the extraordinary. Live on stage. Returns to David Koch Theater, March 25th through April 12th. Get your tickets now at shenyun.com.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
I was a young dad of 3 amazing kids. I was finally following my dreams. Just when you feel like life is starting to come together, you get kind of hit in the face. I was born with a congenital heart defect and had open heart surgery as a kid. I was supposed to go to the heart doctor once a year, and I finally went. He listened to my heart, and I'll never forget, he sat back and he said, yeah, it's time for open heart surgery, or you risk your aorta rupturing, and that's it. I was scared out of my mind. The night before my open heart surgery, I made a goodbye video for my kids. Be strong. Take care of your mom. I love you guys.
Seeing, all the kids hug him goodbye and hoping that they were going to be able to hug him again.
I love you. But I did make it, thanks to the work of the American Heart Association. So that's why I'm asking you to join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help get the next person trained in CPR, get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care, as well as fund the next medical breakthrough like these heart valves that helped save my life. When you give $19 a month with your credit card, we'll send you this special t-shirt to show you're a part of our community of monthly donors.
I'm most grateful that I get to have a husband that I get to grow old with, and a husband that gets to be there for his children.
I believe without the American Heart Association, I would not be here today. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody. Your donation can literally help save a life. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor.
Welcome back to NTD. I'm joined in studio now by NTD health correspondent and host of Vital Signs, Brendan Fallon. Vital Signs offers natural and nutritional ways of optimizing our health. Brandon, good to see you as always. Thank you for coming on. What do you have for us?
Great to see you, Don. A crisis that is facing men. And American men, by a recent study, are said to be among the loneliest in the world. And as of 2025, there are 5 times as many men as 1990 reporting that they don't have a close friend. So I want to talk about this crisis of loneliness that men are facing, what might be causing it from a biological and also a social standpoint, and what can possibly be done about it.
Okay, and I believe you brought a clip with us, right?
We've got a number of clips from different doctors talking about this issue today. The first one, this doctor is talking about this psychological phenomenon known as sublimation, where if there's energy, like from pain or trauma or something, you can't just get rid of it. It's got to be expressed somehow. And she's giving the basis for that. And this is something we'll circle back to later.
You know, Freud talked about all of us need to have some kind of a sublimation. We need to put our anxiety somewhere because we all have some sort of anxiety and energy, and it needs to be directed somewhere. So work is often a good form of sublimation. You put the energy into work. And so we found out, okay, well, what are the areas previously that were important to you? Activities, things that you could do that helped you feel that sense of meaning and purpose. Going to the gym was huge for him. So that was one thing. He wasn't seeing his friends as much. So we talked about getting together. Maybe you don't go out to a restaurant, but you go over to somebody's house. They can come over to your house.
So the doctor was talking about friendships. What are the stats telling us?
Well, the stats, there's an interesting study I was looking at. It's called The State of American Men. This was published in 2025 by a group called Equimundo. And they were looking at different facets of men's mental health. And one of the things that came through was that men, as far as their expectation goes, a lot of their anxiety is coming from the economic side. A lot of them feel this immense economic anxiety. And this was the top pressure for men that came through in the study. And on a social level, despite different changes in society, like the rise of feminism, women having a stronger place in the workforce and things like that, 86% of men still see their primary role as being the provider, and 77% of women share the same opinion. And this next doctor, Dr. Mali Malouf, is a physician and an author. This is a soundbite, a clip, where she's talking about this kind of social changes and how men are being perceived and their expectations on men, but also the biological factors that may be involved in men having trouble connecting in society.
Men and women are different biologically. So men are vasopressin dominant, and
what does that mean?
Vasopressin is a neuropeptide hormone that is responsible for a big part of human bonding, the part that's about defense, protection, and aggression. And so we've kind of, as a society, stopped believing that these are valuable traits in men. And we've tried to suppress them, and it's actually not healthy for society. We actually need protective men, and we need men that can provide that protection to the community. So I think a lot of men feel, frankly, emasculated by society. And then I also think that women are very oxytocin dominant, and so we are just designed for nurturing and designed for connection.
So she said a lot of men are feeling emasculated. What does she mean by that?
Well, I think if you look at the traditional expectations and ideas around masculinity, with changes in society, with the feminist movement, for example, not to judge that either way, but there's not that receptivity towards these traits being displayed in men, like aggression, that she says is linked to the biological profile of men. Protection, defense. These are traits that are needed to some degree in society, but within the current political climate may not be as welcome. So that accounts for some degree of rejection that men might be experiencing in society.
Right, okay. I do believe you have another clip here for us. Would you like to explain a little bit before we play it?
Sure. Now this clip is from a doctor I recently interviewed, Dr. Brad Jacobs, who's an internist and also an integrative medicine doctor. And he's talking also from a social standpoint, coming from a slightly different angle about how men might have been affected and how they might be responding in perhaps unhealthy ways to changes in society, the way that men's relative balance of power in society.
I think men are in crisis. I think your stats are correct. I think Scott Galloway speaks to some of the stats you mentioned. Twice as many women attempt suicide.
Really?
But men are, to your point, 80% of people in the morgue are men that have successfully committed suicide. Men are more likely to be isolated, more likely to be depressed than they were historically, and that trend has increased. And I think men are in crisis because, number one, women have shifted, right? So the feminine movement, to their credit, they haven't achieved complete success, but they've made massive improvements in how they are in the workforce, how they show up with equality, how they can vote. Right? Things that are rightfully belong to them, in my opinion. And some men feel like, well, it's a zero-sum game. So if they have more, then I have less, and it's a threat.
Anything you'd like to add to what the doctor was saying?
Yeah, I think men, as I mentioned to this doctor, there are a lot of negative representations of men in society. I mean, you just look at TV shows and movies, like The Simpsons, The Family Guy, Married with Children, going back a few decades. Men aren't presented particularly positively in society and family roles. They're often positioned to be morally inferior to the wife in the family. So the men, for a multitude of reasons, are copying a lot of criticism in society and perhaps feeling some rejection as a result of that. At the same time, I think there are some aspects of masculinity that are due some revision. And I always point to the example in New York, right? You have so many people, young men, dying from subway surfing every year. Not that many women having this problem. And you've got to ask yourself the question, why are men compelled to prove themselves, prove their manhood in this way, and why they experience this challenge, like they have to prove their courage and bravery in ridiculous contexts to show that they're men. And one of the things that I talked to in the next soundbite that we'll play is a Marine from the Iraq War, and he served in one of the most heated battles of the Second Iraq War, talking about the struggle to find purpose coming out of that climate and how he found a way to express himself through writing. And I think this, when I talk about a solution and sublimation, finding a channel for that anxiety, that pain, self-expression through creativity, in this case writing, is a very powerful medium.
Okay, let's take a look at the clip.
Well, I repurposed myself, and it wasn't, it was with its challenges. I felt very blessed, and that I knew there was something else I wanted to do with my life, professionally at least, and that was to write. And so I, started the long, hard work of becoming a writer, and that gave me purpose, and my family gave me purpose. I have children, and children do a pretty good job of letting you know that they need them. So that helped me repurpose myself. But it's, it's different for every single person. But I think at least recognizing that sometimes the rudderlessness we might be feeling might be our own ability to struggle, our own struggles with, what is the purpose, what is the narrative in our own life, is at least a good first step in trying to get back on track.
I would personally think, this is from personal experience, if you are in those situations, you're feeling these things, these emotions, I think taking a good walk in the park, take in the fresh air, go with somebody you like, just have a relaxing conversation as you walk, that could be a release for me personally, at least if I'm feeling something similar to what we've talked about today.
Social connection is such an important thing, Don, and Dr. Malouf, we played the clip from before, she noted the statistic that loneliness, the effect on longevity and lifespan, is equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, being alone. And we get so much, this is such a foundation, if not the foundation to health, our social connection.
All right, so if you want to see Brandon's full interview with the experts, go to ept.ms/vital signs. And that's all for today's news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.